Someone once said, families are like fudge, mostly sweet with a few nuts mixed in. I think about that line every time I try to describe what family is. We love them, but we sometimes drive each other absolutely crazy. And yet, most of us cannot imagine life without them. Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. I'm Barry Howard, and I'm honored to serve as the interim preacher at the First Baptist Church of Huntsville, and we're glad that you're spending a few minutes of your day with us. Today, I want to talk about something that's close to all of us, family. Not the picture-perfect version you see in greeting card commercials, the real kind, the kind that is sometimes joyful and sometimes complicated, but always worth fighting for. I heard about an old couple sitting by the fireside one evening. The husband looked over at his wife and had a romantic thought and said, "Honey, after 50 years, I've found you tried and true." His wife's hearing wasn't quite what it used to be, and she said, "What?" He repeated a little louder, "After 50 years, I found you tried and true." She thought for a moment and then said, "After 50 years, I'm tired of you too." Well, they've been together so long, they're finishing each other's sentences, just not the right ones. This morning, I want to borrow 3 questions from one of the most striking stories in the Old Testament. Here's a segment of that story found in 2 Kings 4:24 through 26, and it goes like this. She saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Lead on, don't slow down for me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her and ask her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?'" "Everything's all right," she said. Now for a little background. The prophet Elisha sends his servant Gehazi to meet the Shunammite woman, a remarkable woman of faith whose son had suddenly died. Now the story's much more complicated, but in this segment, Gehazi is told to ask her, "Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?" Those 3 questions seem remarkably relevant all these years later, so I'm going to borrow those questions as we frame our conversation throughout the morning. Today is Father's Day, and perhaps you already know this. Father's Day lands differently for different people. Some of you feel genuinely blessed by the family you have. And some of you are in the middle of real conflict and pain. And some of you perhaps feel alone, as if family is something that happened to other people. And some of you, because of distance or loss or divorce, are leaning on your church family more than ever right now. Wherever you are exactly in the right place, because we're going to talk about family the way the Bible does, honestly, hopefully, and with a great deal of grace. First, it's important to understand imperfect families are the norm. That's the first thing I want you to know. Whatever mess your family's in, you're in good biblical company. Because if you read the Bible looking for model families, you're going to be surprised by what you find. There's not a single perfect family anywhere in Scripture. Adam and Eve, well, they had this serpent thing going, and when God asked what happened, Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the serpent, and the serpent didn't have a leg to stand on. That's the first recorded domestic conflict in human history, and it set a pattern we've been living with ever since. Abraham, he asked his wife to lie for him. Twice. Isaac and Rebekah played favorites with their son and nearly tore the family apart. Jacob's grief over Rachel and his obvious favoritism toward Joseph ended with Joseph being sold into slavery by his own brothers. David, who was called a man after God's own heart, could lead an army but could not discipline his own sons. And then there was Ananias and Sapphira, the first married couple in the New Testament church, who got caught in a deception that did not end well for either of them. And it seems every family in the Bible had a few skeletons in their closet, and your family probably has some too. Fittingly, George Bernard Shaw once said, "If you cannot get rid of the family skeleton, you might as well make it dance." Well, every family has a skeleton. The question is not whether your family's perfect. None of them are. The question is, what do you do with the imperfection? And here's what I want you to hear at this first point. If you're carrying shame about your family, about failures as a parent, about a marriage that did not make it, about a child who's wandered far from the faith, the biblical record is not a standard you failed to meet. It's a reminder that God's been working in and through broken families since the very beginning, and He's not run out of grace, and He is not finished with your family story.
Too short. Here's another one.
The second thing I really want to emphasize is that we are wise to do family life God's way. You can try to do family life your way, and you can try to do family life the world's way, but in the end, you'll discover that the best way to do family life is God's way. Proverbs 22:6, for example, says, "Start off children on the way they should go, and even when they're old, they will not turn from it." I want to be honest with you about this verse. It's not a guarantee that your children will never wander. It's a promise that what is planted early in life does not disappear. The values you teach them do not vanish. They stay on the menu of choices, and someday, in God's timing, your children may choose them. Here's a way of thinking about your family that's been helpful to me. Your family is, in a very real sense, a subsidiary of God's family. Family was, after all, God's idea. God invented it. It was the original small group, the original place of formation, the original laboratory for learning how to live with people who are different from you and love them anyway. Let me share a word with all the fathers who are tuned in. Henry Ward Beecher insisted the most important thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. Well, fathers, with that one sentence, it's worth sitting with a while. When your children watch the way you treat their mother with patience and respect and tenderness, they're learning what a kept promise looks like. They're learning what love looks like when it's a decision rather than just a feeling. Let me take a quick aside and suggest 5 practices that help families get on the right track and stay there. They're not complicated, but they are consistent, and consistency is where family life is won or lost. Participate in church regularly. A parent who's involved in a faith community is making a statement that no lecture can make. By the way, since it's Father's Day, let me add that research consistently shows that a father's church attendance is one of the strongest predictors of children's faith and adulthood. Second, manage finances wisely. Financial stress is one of the most destructive forces in family life. A family that lives within its means and gives generously is teaching its children that things are not what life is about. Third, reconcile quickly. Paul even says, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. A parent who apologizes or initiates reconciliation genuinely and specifically is modeling the most important lesson the family will ever learn. And fourth, encourage specifically. Children need to know their parents love them and delight in them, not just in what they accomplish, but in who they are. Specific encouragement is one of the most powerful gifts you will ever give. And finally, number 5, live your faith consistently, not perfectly. Your children already know you're not perfect, but consistently. A parent whose Sunday faith and Monday life match is giving their children the most compelling argument for Christianity they will ever encounter. And here's the foundation between all 5. When you are secure in your identity as a child of God, when your worth is not riding on your performance or your children's achievements, you lead from peace rather than anxiety. You are a child of God, and that does not change. When we come back after the song, I'll tell you what to do when it seems that your family life is held together by nothing more than a popular adhesive and a little homespun determination, and why that may be exactly where God does God's best work. So stay with us.
Every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. Every table is an altar. Every breath is a gift from you. Every moment is a treasure. Every day is a kiss from you. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. Let our hearts be awake, be awake. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. Oh, let our hearts be awake, be awake. Break the bread, pour the wine. Let our hearts come alive in your presence, in your presence. Let our fear fall away, let our faith rise today in your presence, in your presence. Every stranger has a story. Every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. Jesus, only you can lead us through. So let our hearts be awake, be awake. And let our hearts be awake, be awake. And break the bread, pour the wine. Let our hearts come alive in your presence, in your presence. Let our fear fall away, let our faith rise today in your presence, in your presence, Jesus, Jesus. We will shout your name, King of glory. We will stand and sing, you are holy. We will pour out praise, you are worthy of our lives, now and forever. We will shout your name, King of glory. We will stand and sing, you are holy. We will pour out praise, you are worthy of our lives, now and forever. Every stranger has a story, and every story's being told by you. We're all children on a journey. Jesus, only you can lead us through.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Lead Full Circle. My name is Graham Adderholt, and today's short episode is titled Fixing versus Understanding.
Graham Adderholt is the executive director of Lead Full Circle, and it's a fairly new leadership organization which promotes leadership in the home, workplace, education, athletics, and the community. Welcome, Graham. Graham, you're the principal at Elmont High School, so you've seen examples of homes that need leadership.
Right. And that's really kind of what got me started with this process of developing Lead Full Circle. I've been in education for 18 years and I've met so many good people, developed so many good relationships, but at the same time, there's also what I've seen and witnessed is just sometimes struggles within our families and how that affects kids that we deal with on the school side of things. Leadership is emphasized a lot in our workplace, but what I've seen is leadership values left out of the home and left out of our families. Families are stretched so thin this day and time with just the busyness of life and technology just shoved in our face all the time. Our workplace gets our best version of us and not our family. And that is one important thing we try to talk about at Lead Full Circle is just leadership values that are important to, yes, the workplace, but our homes, our family, and also the community we live in.
And Barry's message today is on the family.
Right.
And he mentions that there are no perfect families.
There's not, and there's no reason to pretend any of us are perfect. We should always look for ways to improve, and that applies to our family also. It's just important to never leave our family out of the conversation. The family is one of the most important things to just the success of who we are, and we've got to pour into families and pour into our workplace and leadership in general, and I think it will just continue to help, and I'm nowhere near perfect, so everything we talk about is for me too, so it's just us growing together as leaders in all circles of life.
What advice would you have to parents who maybe a single parent, maybe grandparents raising their children, maybe in a home where there's not a lot of structure? What advice would you have?
So when I hear that question, I think about 3 C's that come to my mind. And in all of these, I would start small, but clarity. Our kids need structure, need expectations within the home, within schools. So I would start with providing clarity in the homes with just small, simple expectations. And then I would build off that. And the second C would be consistency. Our kids need consistent voices, consistent just ways of living in the home. And that could be small things like prayer time in the morning, a weekly meal together as a family. When your kid comes home from school, ask them how the day went. Just simple, small things that, again, clear expectations. You're being consistent with it day in and day out. And the third thing that I think is the most important thing is the connection part of it, the relationship part with your kids. When I say that, put your phones away. Look them in the eyes and talk to them and just have conversations. And one thing that I've always stressed, and coming up on Father's Day, I know a lot of dads that their kids know they love them, but they may not have ever heard that said from their dad to them as kids. And that's one thing I try to do as a father, and I think all families need to stress, always say it, verbalize, I love you. It's important. Yes, they know it, but they need to hear it. And they need to hear you tell your spouse you love them. And so just that connection side of things, take it a step further with being vocal with I love you. It's so important for our kids to hear that and for our kids to hear tell us our spouse that we love them.
Yeah, it's one thing we can't hear enough of.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Graham, you mentioned athletics too.
Yeah.
You were a basketball player at UAH.
I was.
So that's a way to show leadership.
Absolutely. I believe in sports. I believe in athletics. There's so many valuable lessons we can take from that. I played at UAH for Coach Acuff, who is an unbelievable leader himself. And he is now the head coach at Samford. And a lot of what I live by today is what I got from him as my college coach. So athletics is such an important part of my life. And I know as kids coming up, just be plugged into something, be a part of something, be a part of a team is so important to gain valuable lessons from leadership lessons as well. So yes, I was very thankful to play for UAH and Coach Acuff.
And sometimes we hear leadership and we think, well, I'm not a leader, but really we all have an influence on somebody.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. And I wasn't born to be a leader. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want that responsibility. But what people have got to realize, if you have an influence on anybody around you, you're a leader. Like it or not. So the question is, are you a leader worth following? And that's one thing we try to emphasize at Lead Full Circle is just the values, the skills, the conversations, just to help build each other up as leaders so we can have a positive impact on you at work, at home with your family, and then just in the community that you live in.
And you have a leadership conference coming up.
We do. I'm really excited about this. Friday, June 26th at Clements Baptist Church at 5:30.
Graham, thank you so much. Great advice on being a leader and the importance of family.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome back. We've been talking about family on this Father's Day, and specifically how imperfect families are actually the biblical norm, and how God calls us to do family life God's way with consistency and grace. Now I want to talk about what happens when things get hard, and what faithfulness looks like when a family's in a really difficult season. The third thing I really want to emphasize is that conflict in the family is always an opportunity to demonstrate grace. Every family has conflict. If yours doesn't, you're either not paying attention or you're not being fully honest. The question is never whether conflict will come, it always does. The question is what kind of people you'll be when it arrives. Remember the Shunammite woman? Her son had died. She had every reason for life to fall apart, every reason for grief and anger and despair to take over. But she saddled her donkey and rode hard toward the man of God. She didn't sit at home and nurse her wounds. She moved toward help. And when Gehazi asked, "Is everything all right?" she said, "Everything is all right." She wasn't in denial. She was declaring her intention. She was saying, "This is not over, and I'm not giving up. I'm riding toward the God who is not yet finished with my story." You know, that is what grace looks like in a family, not pretending the wound isn't real, but refusing to let the wound be the final word. If you're watching today and your family has a holdout who won't forgive, a prodigal who hasn't come home, a relationship that feels frozen, here's what I want to say to you. Keep the door open. Keep showing up. Keep extending grace, even when it isn't returned. You cannot control what others choose. You can only control what you choose. And sometimes the most powerful thing a parent can do is simply refuse to give up, because that is exactly what God does for us. Finally, I want to underscore the importance of sticking together through every season of life. In one of Mitch Albom's best-selling books, he writes, "Sticking with your family is what makes it a family." As plain and as hard as it sounds, the sticking, the staying, the returning, the refusing to walk away is what distinguishes a family from a collection of people who happen to share a last name. Not long ago, I was driving along a highway and noticed the car ahead of me had a side view mirror that was wobbling a bit. As I got closer, I could see it had been broken. Not clean off at some point, but reattached with duct tape. That's right, duct tape. Not elegant, not a permanent solution, but it was holding, and that driver was making it work. Maybe that's a picture of a lot of families I know. Maybe it's a picture of yours. Something broke. Maybe it broke badly. You didn't have the perfect fix. Just some spiritual duct tape and homespun determination and the grace of God. But you're holding on. And I want you to hear this clearly. Holding on is not failure. Holding on is faithfulness. You know, that's true of families, and it's true of a church family too. One of the things I love about being in Huntsville is that even this congregation at First Baptist Huntsville is meant to be family for one another, especially for those who don't have family nearby or those who've lost it. The church was never meant to be a place you visit once a week. It was meant to be the local family of God, sticking together through every season, showing up for each other the way God shows up for us. Now let me come back to those 3 questions before we go, because I think they're the right ones to carry with you and maybe reflect on throughout your day. How are you? Not the polite Sunday morning version, the real version. Are you carrying something heavier than you've let on? You don't have to answer out loud, but I hope you'll answer it honestly, somewhere quiet, sometime today. How's your marriage? Is there something that needs to be said? An apology that's overdue? The best gift you can give your children this Father's Day might not be a fancy lunch or dinner. It might be prioritizing your marriage, again, beginning today. And finally, how are your children? Not just academically or athletically or artistically. How are things with their soul? Do they know that you love them, not for what they accomplish, but for who they are? Do they know that God loves them unconditionally? You see, your family, with all their function and dysfunction, all their joy and frustration. Whatever season you're in, nearly wed or newlywed or what some might even call grumpy wed, they are a gift from God. So hang in there with them. The best is not behind you. By the grace of God, the best is still yet to come. Even if your family is a little like fudge, mostly sweet, with a few nuts mixed in.
Hi everyone, I'm Holly Knupp, Minister to Median Adults at First Baptist Huntsville. We are folks in our 40s and 50s, married, single, and empty nesters. We'd like to invite you to any of our in-person studies, small groups, or social events. Check out our website or email me at holly@fbchsv.org for more information. We look forward to building community and growing our faith together with you.